You should do more of that Dungeons and Dragons stuff.
We do it every other weekend, so every other Saturday. And I don't know for sure when the last time was that I talked to you about it, so I might have done more or I might not have. I just don't know for sure when it was that I talked to you about it.
Did you buy the Magic Genie lamp yet?
Oh no, I have not done that. So we did have that stream where we were trying to figure out what people were purchasing, but it kind of went by really quickly. And I didn't have a chance to tell him that that was what I was needing. And plus, I need to figure out what the encumbrance amount is for it because my character can only hold up to 20.
Lamps are pretty light.
Is the lamp worth that?
A lamp that literally gives you anything you want, is it worth that? Yes. Yes, it's worth that.
But am I sure that that's what's going to be happening? Or is it going to be like cursed lamp? Like, because you have to roll for your character, whatever it is that you're wanting. And if I said that I wanted that and then it ended up being like a cursed lamp, then I have to make sure that that's for sure what I'm going to be getting and not something that's going to end up being an issue later on.
Yeah, this gets into a pretty philosophically deep topic. So I don't know if you're ready for that.
Am I ready for that?
Are you ready?
So basically, you're going to tell me that I have to decide whether or not it's worth the effort to get something that would potentially be a detriment to me, with the idea that I could potentially get something good out of it.
No.
Okay. Well, then tell me what the philosophical thing is. Not now. That's not it, actually, at all.
A lot of different groups play Dungeons and Dragons with different goals in mind and different expectations. Like, they're looking for different things, like what do they enjoy, why do they play, what's their motivation, and so on. And there's a lot of arguments online because people assume that the reason they play the game is the reason that everybody plays the game. So they're like, oh, you know, you're dumb, you should do it like this or whatever, because they don't realize that maybe someone enjoys it the way they're doing it, and that's how they like the game. So that's the caveat that I'm putting ahead of time. And then the thing I like about Dungeons and Dragons is getting an interesting story out of it. It's like a narrative that you don't fully control. This is one archetype, role players, people who want to be like an actor in a story. The other archetype is power gamers, I guess, maybe is the label to use for them, and they want to win. Like, they want to create like super powerful characters. You know, they study the roles and they figure out how to optimize character creation so that they have the strongest character, and then they want the DM to give them combat encounters, and then they show tactical genius in overcoming that challenge of that combat encounter. So that's the other, like, on another end of the spectrum. I have a hard time empathizing with that viewpoint. I find it very boring over the numbers and spreadsheets and trying to optimize the character in that way. So sometimes when I give advice of, you know, like, you should do this, it'll be bad advice for that type of player because I don't have their viewpoint or their values at all about what leads to a good experience in the game.
Gotcha.
Well, so now when I tell you, like, oh, you should go get a magic lamp, and then you say, well, I don't know if I want a magic lamp because what if it's cursed? And what I'm thinking is, like, even better, because that's going to lead to a crazy good story, right? If you rub the lamp and it turns out to be cursed. It's going to be extremely entertaining for you and your viewers and the DM, you know, to get a curse lamp.
Well, then maybe you should come on there and play with us.
Well, what if your group is entirely power gamers, and then I get bored out of my mind because I'm bringing in like this expectation that none of them share, perhaps.
I don't know that any of them are power gamers. It's the only reason that I joined was because they didn't have a mage. They didn't have a person that could read spells, and there was this.
So they're like, where can we find a reading streamer?
Yeah, and there was this group of trolls that were coming to the city, and they attacked the families, and I was like, see, if you'd have had a mage, they would have been able to detect magic on them, and your group of people wouldn't have died.
Yeah, if only they had the detect. What was it, orcs, goblins? I forgot what you said.
Orcs.
If only you had the detect orcs scroll, then somebody could have read that, and then
they should have known. They would have known, but no.
Just every time you go into the city, and every day, every 24 hours, just read your detect orc scrolls to see if there's any orcs around.
Exactly.
And then there's no orcs today, and then you're like, okay.
No. What happened was these two families showed up at the campsite, and by the way, this is like 9 plays in, so like they've played 9 weeks already. These two families showed up at the campsite Both of them were like extremely needy. They didn't have anything with them, but they were like, we just need your help. We need, we're down on our luck. And in the middle of the night, one of their groups that was originally like kind of sat up at night to watch, kind of like a watchman type of thing, but not really. He ended up dying in the middle of the night. Like somebody stabbed him. I'm like, you should have.
Because he was too busy reading the scrolls, the detect orc scrolls, to notice that there's an orc standing in front of him to stab him.
Exactly.
So the guy was reading the detect orc scroll, trying to decipher it, and because of that, he was too distracted to see that an orc had walked up to him and stabbed him.
No, one of the family groups actually ended up being orcs in disguise. They had spells on them that caused them to look like humans, but they were really orcs.
Okay, but so what? It's not illegal to be an orc.
No, they killed the guy.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's not the fact that they were an orc that was the problem. The problem was that they killed the guy.
Yeah.
So you don't, even if you had the detect orc spell and you cast it and it says, oh, I detected that there's orcs here. So what? It's okay to be an orc. Like, there's no law against being an orc.
Setting up detecting orc spells because that wasn't like what his job was. They didn't have a mage. They didn't have anybody to detect anybody.
But I'm saying, like, even if they did have a mage, let's say they hired you and they hired you to detect orcs, like you cast your spell and said, oh yeah, I detect some orcs. Okay, so what?
No, I would have been able to detect who killed the guy because they didn't leave anything behind. Like, there wasn't any.
No, but once he kills the guy, it's too late. What the whole point of hiring you was to prevent the guy from dying. But if we're waiting for the guy to die, like if you cast it afterwards, it doesn't matter anymore.
See, that's the thing. Like, they didn't have anybody to detect what happened. Like, there wasn't anything.
He got stabbed. That's what happened.
You know what? You, mister, aren't even listening.
I don't need to be a mage to like look at the scene and figure out what happened.
We know the guy died by being stabbed. I know
exactly.
But like,
we don't need a mage for that.
Because they didn't leave any footprints behind. They didn't leave any stab. Like, there was no bloodied objects that were laying beside the body. Oh my goodness. Anyways, so the mage shows up and
says, I detected some orcs.
Yeah, and actually now I'm becoming a wizard because I was a wizard apprentice. So now I have a tower that I can be able to put in the corner of the encampment.
What's the difference between a mage and a wizard?
Well, the mage is just somebody who can do like small spells, and a wizard is somebody who can read scrolls instead of just being told what to incant.
That's not my understanding, but there's all sorts of caveats that mean you could be right.
Well, then why did you ask?
Because I want to test to see if you had the same understanding as I had.
Apparently not.
Yeah. And
we also don't have the same understanding of how this game plays either.
But that's the thing, like there's so much variety in how Dungeons and Dragons is played that's hard to know, and it's easy to bring in your own suppositions.
Well, and there actually is a book that we've got. It's not called Dungeons and Dragons, it's called Warhammer. But it's like Dungeons and Dragons.
It's a completely different system. That's like saying like, oh yeah, we play chess, and then you bring out, your Monopoly board. And I'm like, what?
It's not. You still have the concept of like having a DM, and you got the concept of like a world building.
Yeah, just like you still have a board, and you're moving pieces around. The only similarity is that they're both board games. Just like the only similarity here is that we're both pen and paper RPGs.
So if I didn't do Warhammer, you would have known what I was talking about?
No, because I'm not super familiar with Warhammer, and so I don't know what the difference is between a wizard and a mage in that universe.
And so that's why I said it's kind of like we're playing Dungeons and Dragons. That way.
So in Dungeons and Dragons, there is a specific difference between the two. But again, with the caveat that sometimes DMs make their own house universe, and so they don't adhere to what the standard definitions are for species and classes and so on. Mm-hmm. And so that's why even if you were really playing Dungeons and Dragons, you still might be right in saying that, this is what a wizard is. Like in your campaign, that's what a wizard is. And even if that's not what a wizard is in the standard Dungeons and Dragons campaign.
Gotcha.
A mage is someone, and this one I'm a bit fuzzy on, but I think he innately knows magic. Like he was born sort of like with a gift. Mm-hmm. Whereas a wizard is someone who had to study really hard to learn magic.
Oh.
So in principle, anyone could become a wizard, although like you would need patience and intelligence and all of that. Whereas if you weren't born a mage, you're not going to become a mage. Like, you had to have been born with that magic power to be a mage.
Like an inherent inherent ability.
Yeah. So that's my understanding of the difference between the two in standard Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, good to know. I am not that.
Okay.